This episode of The Construction Record is brought to you by the Greater Toronto Sewer and Water Main Contractors Association. Clean water, our goal, our future.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 78 of the Construction Record podcast. This is Vince Versace, National Managing Editor of the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce, joining you today. This episode of the Construction Record is a special one. It's our ConExpo ConAg special. We hope to share with you some notes and reports from show organizers, as well as provide to you, our listeners, a couple of preview interviews that Warren Frey, our digital media editor, pulled together from a couple of stakeholders that are going to be presenting at ConExpo ConAg next week. So we're pretty excited. As you know, this podcast is a supporting podcast of the show. We've been very thankful of the opportunity presented to us by show organizers to help support it. And also, we're excited by the opportunity, as you've heard me say before, to be on the ground there in Vegas, surrounded by all things construction and heavy equipment while we're down there. We think there's a lot of valuable intel and stories that we can collect, that we can share with you, our audience. And that audience, whether you're listeners, whether you're readers of our publications, you have a vested interest in construction, and we really hope we bring some tidbits of information that either enlighten you or help improve something in your business. ConExpo ConAg is the biggest North American construction trade show there is. So needless to say, if you're curious about what's happening in construction and you're there, you're going to walk away with a wealth of information. And it's our job as the podcast and as publications to kind of synthesize and analyze the things we cover there and bring them to you. So we look forward to that. I should let you know that we're actually going to issue a special podcast episode next week from Las Vegas. So after Warren and I collect some interviews and talk to folks, we hope to pull together something that we can share with you even before the end of the show. As it concerns today's episode, I wanted to share some messages from the show organizers. One of the messages is that advanced registration is tracking well ahead of the last show, which happened in 2017. In fact, ConExpo ConAg has recorded over 4,000 registrations since February 28th. So that kind of shows you, as we're heading into the stretch run, there's still a last-minute rush for people to attend. Dana Husroff, ConExpo ConAg show director, reports, registrations are on track to make ConExpo ConAg and AIFPE 2020 one of the largest in show history. We recognize news about COVID-19 as a concern, and we want to be as transparent as possible about what we're doing to provide a safe and successful experience for everyone at the show. Obviously, COVID-19, the coronavirus, the news around that, is really gaining a lot of momentum in media. And of course, it's starting to touch a lot of different sectors, whether it's politics, travel, sports, or in trade shows. There's an impact by this, and a lot of people have been asking, what's ConExpo ConAg doing to help mitigate any possible illness or sickness happening because someone's attended at the show? One of the things that they've instituted is that they're encouraging a no handshake policy at the show. So yes, we all know it. We do it too as media. We like to shake hands when we meet people. It's kind of a sign of trust and of opening doors. But transmission of viruses and sickness is a big deal, and it's something that we all need to take seriously. So though we like to shake hands, we're going to have to go with different things, folks. For those of you that are going to be down there, we need to do fist pumps, elbow bumps, bow, whatever it is, but reduce as much hand-to-hand contact as you can. Because when it comes to the coronavirus and the transmission of it, the key thing is keeping your hands clean and making sure you don't touch your nose and mouth and face as much as you regularly do. Stats show that in a regular day, we touch our face about 90 times a day, subconsciously, like not even noticing it. So you can imagine when your hands are touching doors, handrails, buttons on elevators, you're picking up stuff. And in light of what's happening with the coronavirus, we need to be a bit more diligent. So the message that I'm delivering to those of you that are going to be down there with us is let's be diligent. Let's be prudent on how we communicate, what we touch, how we keep ourselves clean. It's important. You're looking at about 130,000 people rolling through ConExpo ConAg next week. from March 10th to the 14th. That's a lot of people coming from a lot of different places. So show organizers they're taking a lot of precautions. There's going to be signs up around the venue that share guidelines from the Center for Disease Control on how to, best practices, hygiene best practices essentially. So keep an eye out for those while you're on the ground. Organizers are going to be handing out no offense, just makes sense, no handshake stickers and buttons, just as like a visual cue, a reminder to us all. For something that we do so automatically at events like this, we need to be cognizant not to do it. It's in everybody's best interest. So I'm delivering that message, not just for the organizers, but for ourselves. We all have employees we have to come back to after the show. We have families, we have friends. So let's be diligent while we're there in Las Vegas. It's a lot of people rolling through. So show organizers are making their best efforts to ensure and remind that message around best hygiene practices. So keep that in mind. As far as the show as well, show organizers wanted to share some of this interesting tidbits as far as their attendee base. So there's 92% of the registrants are from North America for the show. 8% are from international countries outside of North America. So you're looking at countries beyond Canada and Mexico. And 2.5% of that 8% who were registered were from Asia, and many of them have canceled their travel to ConExpo ConAg. In regards to cancellations, the new registrations have still continued to outpace the cancellations they report. Most cancellations, about under 700, are from international audiences. ConExpo says, to put this in perspective, that represents less than 1% of the total expected people that are going to be there. So do keep that in mind, that everybody's safety is top of mind. As far as the show itself, it is massive, and we look forward to covering a lot of it. It is going to be both Warren and I on the ground there, as I've talked about it. We've laid out our plan, our best laid plan about how many sessions we can get to, how many podcast interviews we can do. We have intentions to shoot photo galleries. We're going to be launching the Construction Records Instagram account in time for the show. So that's something for you folks to keep in mind who are on Instagram. Just look up the Construction Record, and you'll see some of the images that we're collecting at the show, and see some images of us and Warren doing our thing, recording, talking, sharing the news, and trying to capture the essence of what ConExpo ConAg is for those of you that can't make it. I have here, you hear this rustling. That's a map that I'll probably share that on Instagram. It's a map that I created of all the potential places Warren and I are going to be over the days we're on the ground there in Vegas. And it's pretty daunting when I look at all the arrows and the geography of ConExpo ConAg and how we're going to try to get to everything. So if you see us there and you're a listener of this podcast and we haven't met you before, say hello to us. You'll see us. We'll be identifiable via our badges that we're going to have on, our special construction record badges. We're going to be all about the venue. We're going to be in the podcast room, recording interviews, meeting stakeholders. So we look forward to meeting you all while we're down there. It's pretty exciting stuff to be at something this big and try to capture it for readers and listeners. So as I throw to Warren in BC, he did a couple of preview interviews from some stakeholders in a couple of sessions that we are going to be covering. One of those interviews is with Mallory Brody of Bridget. She's part of a panel that's titled New Approach to Female Construction Leaders. That's happening Wednesday, March 11th at 1 p.m. And the second preview interview is with Kris Lengieza of Procore. He's going to be heading up a presentation called A Construction Tech Odyssey from today to 2025. And that's Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. If you need more details on sessions or scheduling or people that are at the show, we still encourage you to visit conexpoconag.com. You can find out more information there about who's there, who the exhibitors are there, who the vendors are there. And with that, I'm going to throw to Warren. Once again, I'll reiterate, if you're there in Vegas, say hello to us. We look forward to meeting you. And here you go to the preview interviews. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
This feature interview is brought to you by the Ontario Sewer and Water Main Construction Association, Ontario's champion for sustainable and safe water and sewer infrastructure.
So my name's Valerie Brody, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bridget.
Okay, and I guess I'll start with you're going down to ConExpo in a little more than a day or two, I think, and you're going to be on a panel about women in the construction industry, and I wanted to get your opinion as a Canadian and as somebody who's sort of blazed a trail early on doing that. What advice would you give on this panel, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a really interesting dynamic on this panel. So I'm kind of coming from both tech and construction, which are both, predominantly male dominant industries. And on the panel, there'll be 3 women that are from within the construction industry. So I'll be moderating the panel to kind of, highlight some of the experiences I've had bridging the world of technology and construction. And then we'll be getting into some stories directly from women in the construction industry. Mm-hmm. And so far, just in our early discussions of the panel, I think there'll be some exciting topics covered. So I think it'll be, a few different categories of information that will be shared. One is just about some major success stories, which I think sometimes get neglected as a topic when we're speaking about, diversity or females in these new industries. So just really trying to highlight some companies that have been doing some really innovative things or have great practices established already. So I think that'll be sort of the first area that we start with. We'll also then be talking about what are some of the challenges that people have been through, what are learnings then from that, and then ideally some more tangible takeaways for everyone in the audience. So, things that are actually easy to put into practice instead of just kind of like, we wish it were like this, we wish things were like this, just giving very specific, tangible advice on how construction companies can take some of this insight back and actually implement as soon as they're back from the conference.
Okay, and what's the benefit for Bridget to go down to this conference from a tech perspective and construction perspective?
Yeah, so kind of any trade show or conference we go to is just a great opportunity to continue to learn from the industry. So we try and spend a lot of time on site and with our clients, always learning about some of the existing pain points or needs that they have, and that really helps inform our product roadmap. So we've always taken like a very customer first approach, and it's just another opportunity to learn from our customers. And it's also a great opportunity for us to go to, I'll be going to other sessions to try and kind of understand what some of the main topics are within the actual construction industry. Because as I mentioned, we're at the intersection. So, despite having customers that are in the construction industry, we are not in the construction industry. And so it's always a great opportunity to learn about, what topics are really important and really interesting to those that are running construction companies.
And tech in I think you're a better judge of this than I am, but tech in the last few years has kind of not overtaken construction, but it's definitely getting into places it wasn't before. So is that one of the things you're looking forward to, going down there and seeing where tech is interfacing more because in other areas than what you were doing?
Yeah, I think it's just had a growing presence, as you just put it. So the number of companies that are construction technology focused, the size of those companies. There's recent news actually earlier this week that Procore, who's a large construction software company in Santa Barbara, just filed their S1. So on the path to go public, which I think is actually a great milestone for newer construction software companies to look at, that the market is actually this big and this willing to adopt technology, and there's real opportunity there. And I think that will just help encourage even more capital to go into the space, which will ultimately benefit the construction firms because they'll get new, better solutions and continued innovation in the industry. So that was pretty exciting, and yeah, it's always great to go out and have other positive conversations, brainstorming with some of the other tech companies that will be in attendance as well.
And I'm assuming maybe you're announcing things down there you don't want to talk about just yet, but what will you be bringing down there in terms of Bridget's technology platform?
Yeah, so we actually have a product announcement coming out at the CCA conference in March, which is the Canadian Construction Association. Right. That will be the following week in San Diego. So we'll be showing a new module that we'll be launching in the spring on the product that has been in high demand. So we'll be officially launching that new product the following week after ConExpo.
Okay, and one other thing. This is an American conference. Does that make a difference for Bridget, or you guys are country agnostic, I guess, if it's tech for the construction industry, or maybe I'm wrong.
We are country agnostic. We have majority of our customers are in the U.S. just given that the construction market's about 10 times the size. So, all of our marketing and sales efforts are focused on North America as a whole. So we have 20 companies right now that are off the ENR 400 list, which are the 400 largest general contractors in the U.S. Having just launched our second product bench in May, so in under 7 months we've been able to sign up 20 of those top companies, and then many more beyond that, but just kind of off that top ENR 400 list. So a huge amount of our time is spent in the U.S. market, and then of course since Canada is our home base, lots of time spent in the major construction centers as well.
Mm-hmm. And just one other thing, what time is your panel, and will you have a presence, will Bridget have a presence on the floor itself for people who are interested in the product?
So we don't have a booth at this trade show,
Okay.
so we will have CPA the following week, and my panel is at Wednesday the 11th, and it's at 1 o'clock.
Okay, great. And any more information, people can go to the ConExpo website. Thanks very much. I'm here with
Kris Lengieza, the Director of Business Development for Procore's Marketplace. Been in the construction industry for about 15 years and really working on improving the workflows of really our customers and kind of the industry as a whole.
And we're talking today because both of us are headed down to ConExpo in Las Vegas in a few days. And I just wanted to get your take on, you're going to be doing a session there, so I want to know what you're talking about, first of all, in that session, what you'll be addressing the audience there.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited for the event. It's the largest event in our industry when it comes to just the mass of people being all in the same place. And it's really exciting to see this year all the emphasis being put around technology and innovation. And that's really great to see, because as being, had been in the industry for about 15 years, it wasn't always that way. There's a lot more available to the industry now as far as technology solutions and innovation that really, even as little as 5 years ago, it was still does this really exist? Is this really going to help me? Mm-hmm. So what I'm talking about is really the journey that we've been on for as far as technology and innovation inside of our industry, and what the next 5 years could look like for a general contractor or a specialty contractor. What are some of these technologies that you've been hearing about? Are people actually using them? How effective are they? And what should you be thinking about inside of your organization as far as, should you be looking into data and analytics? Should you be looking into using AR, VR if you're not already? What's your plan for modular construction and things like offsite construction? And how are these innovations going to really shape the future of our industry?
And one thing is, they do this every 2 or 3 years because it's such a huge convention. And so over the past 3 years in technologies terms, what was stuff that was cutting edge when the last one happened, and now this is just everyday or soon to be everyday stuff for your average contractor?
Yeah. So a lot of the buzz today is around data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. I think 3 years ago when I was at ConExpo, I actually mentioned that in the presentation, and people thought they were going right to the Terminator and Skynet. Mm-hmm. It's a different conversation now. It's people are used to seeing it in their normal everyday lives, right? Like people who use Gmail, it kind of completes your sentences. That's machine learning on the back end, right? And so people are used to these small enhancements, and it's not necessarily this big scary thing that's out there. So that's something that I don't think was getting a lot of press probably 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think a lot of people were still just coming into the market of using cloud-based platforms and using mobile technology to communicate. It was still a lot of just, let's digitize the industry, right? And now it's a lot more, a lot of us are digitized, and now we're looking for the next step, right? It's, what do we do with all the data? What other data can we collect with things like IoT and site connectivity being a lot more prevalent? A way to have everybody connected on your job site, as far as job site Wi-Fi, and with things like 5G coming, it makes it a lot easier for people to be working off their phones, to have IoT sensors integrated into your project management platform. There's just a lot more there as far as all the data and information you can gather and put in one place.
And just in terms of stuff that now will be cutting edge, that will have your audience going, huh? What do you think are some of the things that'll be doing that? I know I, for one, am looking forward to seeing, if it's there, the Boston Dynamics robot. so it'd be great to see that. But what are other examples?
Yeah, so the Boston Dynamics robots is a great example. I think I've been showing off robots in my presentation now for about 2 or 3 years. And it's really cool to see that people are actually using it on a job site. A customer of ours, Parmelo, is actually one of the first construction companies to have a real deployment of this, where they're collecting site photographs and scanning using Spot, right? So it's no longer this thing that you see in funny videos that are great to watch, but nobody really knows how this is going to be applied. It's happening. I think the artificial intelligence and machine learning conversation is another great one, right? Like, there was a lot of like, hey, this is kind of out there, but now we're seeing real examples of how it can be predictive, how it can really inform us about when a job could potentially be going wrong. I think there's some definitely some cool factor and some things around like augmented reality and virtual reality, with the HoloLens becoming more accessible, with companies like Trimble really investing in getting that technology out to the field and dialing in the process. Something that was meant for someone to kind of play around with and try and figure out how they could build it into their workflow. We're now seeing that into more everyday workflows, which is really exciting. And I think some of the other things that are around, what we're doing with the model, right? 3D modeling is not new, but the processes we're able to kind of put through that to automate and create generative design, to be able to automate the digital twin of a building is a big topic right now, of being able to tie data from the construction process to a model or to a point cloud to be able to hand over to an owner as a deliverable. I think contractors are going to be at the center of that, very, very well positioned to play a big role in that transformation for owners. So some of those are kind of the newer things that I think people see and they go, oh, wow, I wasn't even thinking about that. That'll give them the, hey, this is the stuff we're going to see really moving over the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay, and in terms of this, there's nothing more low tech than getting all together in the same place to talk about stuff. People have a lot more tools available. Like, for instance, right now we're talking over Zoom from two different cities. But what are the advantages for a company like Procore doing this giant convention where it's all essentially low tech? It's all people meeting and greeting.
Yeah. I mean, so our industry is still predominantly a face-to-face handshake business, right? That's how a lot of us were built. And so you have to be able to, we're very tactile in our industry, right? So we have to be able to put our hands on things. We have to be able to actually try it ourselves. It's the whole reason that an event like ConExpo exists, where all these major equipment manufacturers bring cranes and concrete trucks and all kinds of major heavy equipment to Vegas, so that operators can like actually physically sit in them and touch and feel and see and things like that. And the same thing goes really for software, right? You got to see it with your own eyes. You got to be able to pick up that tablet or that phone or interact with it on a touch screen and see what the workflow would be. Now, there's nothing better than being able to bring it out on a job site and actually see how it operates. But if you don't actually see it live and in person, and you only rely on what kind of happens, what you've heard or what you've read in a pamphlet, it's not quite the same. You got to kind of feel and touch it and explore it yourself. The other thing is, we have a massive customer base now, over 8,500 customers, and it's a great way for us to just connect with our customers, right? Probably about half of the people that come to the booth are already existing customers of ours, and they're looking for updates on new features that we're launching. We're looking for feedback from them. It's so important to us to hear from our customers. So we know our customers are going to be at the event, and therefore it's also a great place for us to be. And that's why we actually bring a bunch of product people, not just sales folks, to these shows, is because we want to be able to get that feedback from our customers.
Okay, and finally, when is your panel specifically, and where can people go to see the Procore booth?
Yeah, so the Procore booth, I probably should have been more prepared with a booth number, but we are in the area with the remainder of the technology, and I can get that booth number for you. But I present on 2 different talks. I've got a tech talk that'll be on Wednesday, And then my full presentation on the construction technology journey and Odyssey from now to 2025 is on Thursday morning, and that is in the in one of the convention center halls. I can follow up with some details there as well.
No problem. I can put that in our show notes if you'd like.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kris.